Former cult members, what made you realize you were in a cult and need to get out?
I was born and raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Got married to another witness when I was 19. Around age 23, I started questioning the intense level of control they have on our smallest choices. What we wear, look like, what we watch or listen to, who we spend time with, etc. Things really started falling apart when my cognitive dissonance was reckoning with the fact that I've worked with several hundred non-witnesses, and they were every bit as intelligent, compassionate and loving as the best witnesses I knew, yet the organization taught me that non-witnesses were selfish, horrible people, and they were all going to die at Armageddon, which has been constantly and urgently imminent for the last 150 years. I'll drop a link to some of their quotes regarding this in case you're curious. After this got to be too much, I finally decided to research what ex-witnesses had to say. The organization called them apostates. We were trained to be terrified of them and what they had to say, to never listen to them. Once I gave them a chance, it clicked instantly. Our leadership told us to never listen to apostates, because they knew the whole time that the apostates were right about everything they say. My wife was not thrilled, to say the least, but I convinced her that truth stood up for itself, and she had the right to examine all the evidence and decide for herself what was true. We've been happily out for a year and a half, making new friends, having the time of our lives, and we are buying a house this week.
Actual serious answer, when they told me I couldn't leave. And if I did defy them and leave, I would be excommunicated. Edit, a Christian church. Evangelical/Pentecostal-ish.
I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. I used to like it, it was all I knew. I watched a documentary about Jonestown, and a few TED Talks about cults, and I found a lot of similarities with my own religion. During quarantine, away from peer pressure and their exhausting preaching activities, I had time and space to learn more about my own religion, and I realized I was in a cult. I joined EXJW here on Reddit, have been reading a lot about the subject, stopped going to their meetings, etc. My family is still in, they don't support my decision, but I don't care anymore. I'm 17, might go to college this year, and I'm glad that I'm out.
When I realized that forcing everyone to legally change their last name, not leave the building, not take pictures and not say certain words was not normal, dude. Also the mandatory viewing and the evening classes for those inexperienced in the cult's niche paranormal.
They told me I devoted too much of my time studying instead of praying, proselytize, going to gatherings, so-called family time. I even explained that I study because I want to one day contribute to the alleviation of poverty in my country. They confronted me one day. They said that studying is more important to me than God, that it would be better to save myself a seat in heaven, and that all I could do is pray for God to provide for the poor. I felt insulted because they were Americans and it seemed like their privileged life blinds them from how humiliating it is to not be able to eat. I personally know how many generations that have passed that have prayed for poverty in our country to end. After that exchange, I was so shaken with disgust from what I just heard. It was then that I decided I should get out. I'm a spineless coward, so I composed a letter detailing my leave and handed it to them rather than confront them directly.
I was raised in the independent fundamental Baptist cult. There were always warning signs, but I was indoctrinated from birth, so it was easy to ignore them. Between my freshman and sophomore years at the cult sponsored, the most famous pastor, cult leader was being a sexual predator and is now in jail. When I went back for my sophomore year, people around the country were being asked to write letters to ask the judge for leniency for Shop because he was a good man. In that same year, I got caught with my boyfriend's arm around my shoulders and almost got expelled. That was the final straw for me. Seeing the same people who begged for mercy for a child molester throw the book at me for a side hug made all the pieces fall into place. That's the super short version, but if you want the whole story, I tell it on the Leaving Eden podcast.
A friend from the same church explained it to me when I was young. They control everything from our money, marriage, thoughts, actions. But growing up in such a church makes it feel normal, you know? I couldn't question it.
I joined the ex-gay movement during university. We, just a normal evangelical church, would stand outside church and give roses to people as they walked past, offers free meals to students, played rock music. That's how we found new members. They weren't all gay, by the way. Once people joined, they were grouped off into disciple groups, male and female. You weren't allowed to mix. Then, the sort of gay guys were put in a small group together. It was strange how they would ask us questions to probe this. The main guy did pick us out somehow. In the group there were 4 to 5 of them. We started praying over each other and doing more secretive tasks to make us more straight. I went on several camping trips with these guys. I quite liked it. I think I realized it was a cult too late. I just left when it was taking up too much spare time.
Not actually a cult strictly speaking, but I was in a MLM sales job that used all the tactics of a cult to get people to stay. Promise of future success, isolation from friends and family etc. Throughout working there I stopped talking to my old friends and family and became someone I never want to be again. The point where I started to check out is when one of my clearer thinking friends started pointing out problems with the company. It kind of forced me to think critically and get out of it. I'm doing much better now with a new job and talking to my family again, though I've never gotten back the friends I lost.
I've been a member of multiple cults both as a leader and a follower. You make more money as a leader, but you have more fun as a follower.
Left the Jehovah's Witnesses cult 3 years ago. When they tried to tell me they used history to prove their doctrine, then when reviewing said history myself and finding it that it actually disproved their doctrine because they were ignoring 99% of the facts it stated, then got mad at me when I pointed this out. Yeah, beep that. Shout out to /r/xju. Amazing group of people there. Edit, should to shout. Edit 2 for the downvoting crowd. Try googling when Jerusalem was destroyed, and then using that date. Secular history has proven without doubt to calculate to the year 1914 using your doctrine and see if it still works for you. 4-leaf clover.
When the pastor said, "Some of you don't even vote right."
They kept changing the date for the end of the world. 1880, 1914, 1929, 1974, 2000. She's ended already.
If QAnon counts, it was when they insisted that Democrats were eating the life essence of babies to gain eternal youth.
A red flag went up immediately when our leader summoned me to his office and told me that his jism contains divine energy that will prevent cancer in anyone who swallows it. Strange, looking back in hindsight I think I have been in 3 cults, and in all 3 the exact same thing happened.
I think my friend finally realized when I screamed at her crying on the phone and hung up on her. I know none of you here know me, but that is not anywhere near my usual behavior. Her then BF, Jehovah's Witness, was taking her to Kingdom Hall, was giving her number out to his pastors and their wives, was trying to indoctrinate her after they had dated for a while and going on about how they couldn't be together if she wasn't one too. She was cautiously kind of going along with it, and I can't particularly say what was the tipping point, but I finally lost it. I consider her family and would absolutely take a bullet or give her a kidney if needed. I happened to be in the car with my mom when it happened and scared the beep out of her. Luckily they broke up pretty quickly after that.
Former anti-social justice warrior here. That was a cult. All it took was the Nazi flags and I then knew it was time to go. It was a waking realization. Once you have Nazi flags on your side, it was time to shut the beep up and get the beep out of there. Especially if you're black. I can't excuse Nazis or the Klan. As soon as I see that I am out of there. And I'm glad I left it in the dust.
Insurrection.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.